Hey, time is 2:45 a.m. UK time, Saturday, July 16th. This is really just a quick check-in because I really feel I should, but like it's got to be quick too. My back is killing me, man. I don't even understand. I never had back troubles in my life. This feels like a first. I hope it doesn't persist, dude. Like I can't even understand where and how this happened. It's weird. It's almost like spasming, not quite like a spasm, but like it's weird. Anyways, the reason I want to check in this week of all weeks is well, I'll tell you. That's funny. So where to start? Well, first things first, I feel like the last like 6 or 7 months I've been well out of whack, like not quite right. Like that whole long stretch. I don't know if I touched on this. I feel like I kind of did in the last one that I actually like hit away, but will re-enable that one at some point. But what I was saying, maybe then, but definitely have been feeling is that I don't know, for whatever reason, last 6, 7 months now, I guess, just hasn't been quite right for me. It's been a real struggle for a lot of different reasons. Um, and maybe even without good reason, right? As well. But this week was a good week. It was really busy, like all in. Um, and but I had the energy to like go all in and went all in, right? Whereas I feel like I've been just really lacking the energy for the last 6 or 7 months to do, to really just dive in. Not to say that I haven't necessarily, but like I don't know, it's been a struggle bus basically. And the reason, just to give a few, right, as like a kind of context or explanation is I think really I feel like at the end of last year, I really fulfilled my tour. I fulfilled what I set out here to do, which was, in my mind's eye, save the company, extend my tenure as a VP. Nobody gives a shit if you've been a VP of a company that went under, within 3 to 6 months of you becoming VP, right? Who could care less? So that was like the initial goal. Yeah, and really kind of like in my mind, in my heart of hearts, pay back this debt I felt to this company, right? And I feel I definitely did that and accomplished great metrics also. That was something, set out to do. It's very, not necessarily in that first year, but by that second year, really kind of accomplished something I could, put on my CV resume and be proud of, forever after. And definitely did accomplish that, right? So then the question became, right, like at the end of the year, went back home for the first time too, during Christmas time and did my return tour in a way, right? Saw a bunch of people, saw good, not people, friends, homies, family, basically, right? Fam. And did that piece and then came back and was like, well, now what, right? And I didn't really come to a good answer for myself until like, maybe relatively recently, really recently, right? And even then, having the answer is one thing, but it's another to, be, committed or feel, right? I don't know how to say, the, be feeling the mission or the next, kind of whatever, right? Um, it's weird, dude. Every time I breathe, like I feel my back. It's so fucking weird, dude. Like, ooh, man, I think back troubles, like as far as physical troubles, is got to be one of the worst, right? I mean, not that I've ever had them, so I really can't relate, except in this moment, maybe, and God forbid it gets worse. Like, but wow, dude, ooh, I don't even know what this is, where this came from. Like just today too. All the more reason, bookmark, right? Oh, if this were to persist, I don't know. I need a better chair. This chair is whack as fuck, dude. I had to even buy like a cushion as soon as I got it because it was so uncomfortable. Oh, and now my posture is horrible too. There's all these things at play. Oh, but anyway, so what about this week though is different than that. I was hoping, I know I've been through this before, right? I've been through these phases, and I always know like you just hold on, right? It gets better kind of thing. That whole what is that, like a motto against suicide? And Definitely. I think like I've been through it enough to know that it does. Just stick with it, even when it feels like it won't, and you can't understand how it could or would or be better, and don't believe that it will get better. And and those depressions too, like or those moments at least, it's almost like you feel like even if you do feel better, right? It's not that reality. I don't know. Sometimes it feels like you have a better grasp on reality when you're not feeling so well than you do when you're feeling good. And I think that's absolutely true, right? For the most part, as a general rule. And now I'm feeling better. Maybe my grasp on reality is a little disconnected, maybe more so, but I feel better. So that's better, maybe. But what's better about this week as well was that Buddy visited over the weekend, somebody I actually like lived with back in SF. And it was good to see him, man. It's fucking refreshing for me personally, honestly. And he's like, we only live, I think we knew of each other a little bit, of course, right, leading up to living together, but really became friends in living together, and considered him like one of my best friends, even though it was just like maybe not even a year of living together, right? But and it's been a while since I've seen him. No, that's not true. I saw him actually just at the end of last year, Christmas break for other buddy's wedding, right? So it's good to see him then too, and then to see him again now. And he's doing his interesting thing where he's kind of like hopping around the world, like looking at like lots of different places and considering where in the world he may want to live. He has a place, owns a place in SF, but still there's this question mark, despite owning a place in SF, Hayes Valley, no less, right? There's this question in his head of like, where does he really want to be, right? Which is interesting. Um, and yeah, honestly, even though we lived together for like a year, I think we saw a very different angle of him also, which is interesting. That like I don't know, it was good. It was, I think, exactly what I needed. It's kind of the first real homie to visit me, honestly. The only other person who's visited me so far is this one girl that I went to high school with. And it wasn't like she was coming to visit me. Not that he was coming to visit me either. It was a pit stop. But like her, him, my brother, my mother, my aunt, and that's it, right? So yeah, it's good that this is the first homie in London sort of experience. Hope to have many more. We'll see. Homies out there, hear me out. Here, do you hear me? Kind of thing. Oh, fuck, dude. Um, and so there was that, and I think it also helps to get my dick wet, right? So that coming off of that this weekend, which is a little moment of this mark that too. But I don't know if I can credit that for having a better week this week, but maybe doesn't go beyond reason, right? um and people often talk about like needs. When they talk about needs, oh, we have I know she has her needs, we have our, everyone has their needs, I have my needs. I always really roll my eyes at that shit real bad. I don't think sex is a need, man. I never thought of it as such, right? Like I feel, you may feel that you need it, right? I really need it right now, but like I don't consider it a need the way people other people maybe do, or I feel that other people do. That said, right? It's I think it's definitely beneficial, right? To be having sex, right? I think that's a fact. I don't think that's an opinion in the slightest, right? I guess it could be said that it's depending on like how you're having sex and stuff, and who you're having sex with, and this and that, and how you kind of treat sex, maybe, or think about sex. Sure, right? There's all sorts of like downsides to it, but I'm just talking about the physiological, I guess the word physiological benefits of it. Like hot damn, dude, like that's undeniable, right? Like, like, and yeah, man. So there's that. I'm thankful for that. And coming off of that, I had a good week. And there again, I don't know, is it causation, correlation? Causation, correlation, coincidence, right? um but goddamn, like it's kind of monkey off the back in some ways, but not in all ways, right? There's still a monkey on the back sort of thing. um But what was special about this week, I think, is that I finally stepped up to the plate in my mind's eye, or at least, on being a better manager for my team, despite being like really overwhelmed with pilots this week. To be honest, we've had more pilots now than we've ever had, and I'm responsible for the pilots. Me and one other SC, basically. And I feel bad for that SC, to be honest, because he's responsible for the pilots as well as a bunch of other like of our most important customers. Um, and yeah, we need to revisit that, right? We need to get him off of all those customers if we want him to be on the pilots, which we do, because he's so quick, so sharp, so good. Goes the extra mile also. But right now, I think we're just riding him too hard. And I feel that I'm being ridden too hard, but I've unloaded a lot of my, day in, day out accounts. It's really just more so now for me, the pilots, and managing the team, and now, hiring, and whatever else, right? Helping the team too. I've become like support, right? I'm basing my team's support, which is really, I don't mind it, right? I just wish I had the time to give them the level of support they need, right? Yeah, and I make the time, of course, and all that, but like, sometimes I don't even see the Slack message until like 2 hours later, because it's like back-to-back calls or head down in something, whatever it may be. This week I feel like I finally kind of stepped up to the plate on it, had a good kind of big call with the team. I think every other week I have a call with the whole team, and then in between that it's just a call with like the CSM team. And then every other week bring in the solutions engineers for a whole like service delivery call that includes both the CSMs and the SEs. But I think I'm actually going to do this, the whole team call more regularly than every other week. But this week, got put it together, basically have decided on, a biannual assessment kind of, what do I say, plan, right? So kind of making that move away from just being a startup that we have been for so long, and actually doing more formal kind of, biannual assessments there. And then I had to think through like, how do I want to do it? How does it going to look? Like some of that stuff I even roll my eyes at, honestly. And then, even never had been through one myself too, right? I've never received any kind of like real formal assessment, not a Yammer, I was at Microsoft very briefly, not there then either. Not a Lean Data, nowhere. Not a TrueBates, that's of course, right? Surprisingly, not a New Relic either. So I don't even have that to draw on. It's one thing not to have like many, if any. I have a couple of, I can pull on things of managers I've had where, okay, they did that well, but I've had a lot of bad managers. There's only so many good managers. I have some managers, not a single thing I'd pull from him, right? Or them. Quite a few of them actually, that I can't even say I have anything I can even cherry pick from them, other than like reverse role model sort of situation, like what not to do, basically. So I guess thanks for that. But yeah, even it's actually kind of impacted me as a manager, because I'm constantly thinking of like what not to do, but I need to think of what to do, right? And I don't have a great like template from one other man. The most recent manager I guess I had like before, like the CEO currently for me. She was good, but yeah, she was good. She was good for me for sure, right? And I have her at least, and I do actually replicate a lot of like these like documents she created. I basically just recreate in the way she created them. Thank God she's given me like literally that template. That's like a literal template. So there at least I have that. So thanks for that. Without that though, I don't know that I'd have much, if any, in the way of like real manager templates of how to be. I've had managers I like and have been good and did some things I like, and I kind of like, would like to kind of maybe replicate that in my own way, right? But yeah, as far as, I never have received a self-assessment. I don't even know how to really we'll see how these go, right? It took a while to put it together. Even had to ask my brother, like, what the heck do you guys do at Walmart corporate, right? And he shared with me what they did. And I ultimately agonized over for a long time because there's a lot of like language in there, like where it's like, oh, opportunity, successful, exemplary, opportunity, which basically means, need to work on, right? Successful means basically meets expectations, and exemplary exceeds, right? Sure. But even like the verbiage of some of this stuff, right? And had me like rolling my eyes. And then I talked to another buddy of mine like a few weeks back, and what he was saying was like, dude, you can't reinvent, don't try and reinvent the wheel, right? Before you've, you know, this he didn't say it like that, but like, like, dude, just fucking, if Walmart is the biggest employer in the world, you may want to just start with like Walmart's template and then tweak away from there. But like, having never done it before, having never experienced it before, maybe I just take like this Walmart template and then, run with it. So, basically that's to a degree what I did. I did, of course, like tweak this or that a little bit, but not enough to say I really put my like fingerprints on it so much, right? But let's run with it. Let's see how this goes. And some people really want it. Some members on my team really want this sort of thing. Others like are like quite have an adverse reaction to it. So it's really interesting. And even me, like I kind of get the adverse reaction to it a little bit too. But we'll see. Let's go. Not this week, not next week, because we have our DG week off, or the whole company takes off. The following week, I'll be running those with the team and report back basically. But then that's not what made this week especially good too. I got a chance to really kind of change the way we pay our SEs. So that got approved, and got the opportunity to announce it this week to the SEs also. Basically now what I'm doing is I'm adding variable pay to their pay. So they're effectively getting an automatic pay raise going forward. And that variable pay is going to be tied to the same MBO structure as the CSMs. And not ironically, but interestingly enough, I feel like the CSMs were almost more excited about the concept on behalf of the SEs than maybe the SEs were, right? Not to say, they were of course like appreciative of it, but like it was interesting, right? And it will be good, I think, to get the SEs working toward the same goal as the CSM, right? And they both get paid in the same way, right? On the same goals. They're both rowing in the same direction, right? Together in tandem, and win and lose together, sort of thing. Problem is that currently SEs in Europe span multiple CSMs, right? So it's easy enough with the North American SE and CSM because they're paired. That's my first pairing. I have another pairing between the same SC that does the pilots and like kind of my the EU lead CSM. But I'm trying to pull that SC away from the EU, basically lead CSM, and find him a new SC basically, so that this one he currently has can just like focus on pilots purely, and not just pilots purely, but I know he wants to be more of a developer. So I want to kind of open that path to him too here with us, right? So the idea being like, and this is like a six months from now sort of thing, because it'll be a long transition for sure. And I got to even find an SEs, right? So that's the number one priority pretty much. Well, it's hard to say number one priority given the pilots, but like big priority, next week is, starting the hiring process on these two SEs, and also implementation manager to help get me off of the pilots. But given how sensitive pilots are, A, they've got to be really good, right? So I think maybe a drawn out process in finding someone. And B, like, no matter how good they are, like, I'm not confident I'll feel comfortable like letting somebody else run pilots until at least 6 months in. So here again, long transition process for me too there. Yeah. So I got to hire like a really good IM. It's really critical. I mean, every hire is so critical, man, especially at like a small startup like us. But like with this SC that we're, I think, riding too hard, and he's, doing a great job, granted, but like we need to ease up because I think we're riding him too hard. Want to get him off of those like, day-to-day customer accounts, get him off of like daily accounts, focus on pilots. if and when there's like a lull in pilots, right? Because it happens. There was actually a huge lull. Like we had like one pilot all of like last 3 months since May start. And then now all of a sudden we have like 6 or 7. So, and like all of a sudden, I mean like the last like week or two, all of a sudden, boom. And part of that is the fact that I think is I think attributable to the fact the VP of sales was like out of commission for like 2 months leading up to his wedding, and like 2 weeks, whatever after, and then now he's back. All of a sudden, there's a flood of new pilots. I don't know, coincidence, causation, correlation, who knows? But the it all kind of aligns, right? Timing is very coincidental, at least. But now I was fucking stressed. Like not last week I was not feeling good, right? Like this week, much better. The contrast too is significant. Like the turnaround, right? Being able to turn it around, because I really wasn't feeling good last week. In fact, I was sick last week. I think it was last week or the week prior. I forget. Damn, dude, it's even changing my back is changing my voice, dude. It's fucking weird, dude. Like, what the fuck, dude? Okay. So what I'm saying with this SE is, because there's more to this story about this SE actually this week as well. So let me get through this, is that let's say he wants to be a developer. We know this, more so wants to be, not sure that he really wants to be an SE for the rest of his career. And granted, he's like early in his career, and I think he's been an amazing SE. I think he'd be an amazing developer too. And if that's what he thinks he might want, I don't know that he's like wholly sure himself, right? But let's say he does, given what he's done for us. He's our first SC, and he's like, if you think of like a coaching tree or like a family tree, like coaching tree, like he is the top of the SC coaching tree, because he was the first. Then he recommended this other girl who was great, amazing, currently on maternity leave. Can't wait for her to come back. I really do actually feel the loss of her a little bit. And she's been gone now since May, and I still feel like I feel it, right? But hopefully she'll be back. He recommended her. She recommended, before she left on maternity leave, she recommended this other SC that's now been with us since May as well, a little bit before, I think March. He's been with us since March, actually. He's good too, right? Initially, like English wasn't really very good, but it's like developed like I had faith it would, right? But I realized in retrospect, like my faith in how his English would develop was rooted in how well the other SC, the one that's on maternity leave, how well and how quickly her English improved, both like hearing, the ear for English as well as speaking, but like most importantly, the ear for it. Like his English isn't bad. They speak well, but then they don't understand sometimes, right? Which is actually more concerning, And she was telling me the last day before she took off her maternity leave, she shared this story of how she couldn't understand with the US at CSM on the call, and the or North America CSM on the call, and the North America SC on the call, who we had just hired, right, like a month or so before, 6 weeks before, and prior to that, like the SC taking maternity leave was managing all these US accounts, right? All the North American guys she was managing. So she was basically paired with the USS CSM before we brought on this USSC, North America SC. So, but she was telling the story of like how in like her first month, right? She got off a call with T, the NA, North America CSM, and started bawling because she didn't understand a word she had said, right? Like started having like a panic attack about how is she going to do this job? She can't even understand the American speaking, right? And that she does speak fast, sure, but like clearly, but she speaks clearly, but admittedly fast. And I didn't realize that it was that difficult for her at the beginning. I recall in the interviews asking her questions and her asking me to repeat myself multiple times and being quite clear she didn't really understand what I was saying, which is a red flag you would think, but like the fact Doran recommended her and whatever, like she seemed really sweet and passed the technical test. It was like, oh, let's go for it. And, she really quickly like made herself a very important part of our team. But I didn't realize like how hard it was for her, even just like the English element early on, right? so when we hired units, I was just like, oh, I'm just using names at this point. Fuck it, bro. It just trips me up trying to kind of not. So when we hired unit, before we hired units, he himself called out that he was concerned about like his English. And even when Marcella approached him about the job, right? I think even in the email he shared me, he said like, I'm not very strong with English, and I'm not sure if I'd be a good fit, sort of thing. Don't worry about that, right? And then even in the interviews, it was clear kind of why, right? His spoken English was good, written English was good, but the ear for English wasn't there. And I said, look, like, of course, this is a concern. Yes, I can't act like it isn't, but I'm not that concerned because I've seen how like Marcella, how quickly how quickly she improved, and how amazing like she is now, right? With her ear and, for English, and, speaks well and all that, right? But when I said that, like, I didn't realize just how hard Marcella had it, or how hard it was for Marcella, right? And then, but lo and behold, like he's in a very good place right now. So felt like even if the faith in it was a little ignorant to how hard it actually was or is, it played out well. He's doing well now. And I got to basically give him a pay raise this week as well. So I gave him a little bit of a 10% pay raise, a little bit, like, it's not a little amount, and then plus this like variable component on top, which, is basically additional pay raise, effective immediately on the base, but the variable to be assessed at the end of Q3. So we're announcing it now at like the start of Q3, right? And explaining how the MBO is calculated and everything, which is I've created a very complicated MBO structure, but I think it has to be complicated. Obviously, I think that because I designed it that way, but we'll see. I don't even think if any of this is really understand it still, right? But maybe in 3 months' time they'll finally get it. They'll definitely, I think, get it once they get paid on it. And then all right. So back to this other SC, right? So Doran, right? This one that's been so good for us, the first one, who is basically the grandfather tree, right? Oh, that's the other thing. He recommended that I reach out to Ingrid, who used to work at a customer of ours, but then moved on to IBM. And I reached about reaching out to her about a SC role. And yeah, we had like, it had been talked about when or joked about at least, but like, been thought of, right? When she was at this customer of ours, right? But it was, but she left from there, and she was at like IBM, and I could see from like her background that she was really on like a PM track. She wanted to be a PM. And when I reached out to her for that first call with her, it was she admitted as much, like, yeah, I am trying to be a PM, not like an SC. It never occurred to me to be SC. But we basically sold her on the role. She already knew us from having working with us. But yeah, I wouldn't have reached out to her if it weren't for him either. So he is like the grandfather SE, basically. Everyone who is SE on that team is connected to, to him, through him, basically a thread. But if he wants to be a developer, yes, I want him to be a developer, even if that or at least I want to open a path for him there for that. Now, granted, I really need him now. It can't be like, oh, just go be a developer. And honestly, because we're such a small startup, like we need like really good, sharp, like experienced developers right now. We don't have time or space to like train somebody. That's actually the downside to a startup. People think it's a great place to like learn, and it is. You learn a lot, but you learn from doing it. It's not a great place to be like, how do I say, developed. You kind of have to like, develop yourself in a way. You're not going to get, the training, and, there's no time for it. We have one front-end developer currently right now, right? We had 3, maybe 2.5, right? We had like 3, and now we have 1, right? He doesn't have time to like train or, hold your hand, right? That's like, if you want that, you need to go to a bigger company, basically. And he acknowledges that too. So that's what he was saying as well. I was like, well, we're going to hire developers, right? We're going to hire more developers. That's the plan anyhow, right? This is not like a here and now plan anyways. We need to hire some other SEs, right? And then, transitions your accounts from you to them. And then, get you in a place where we can just have you on pilots. And then even then it's more like be a developer, do the developer stuff in like the lull times. between pilots, or when there's not like heavy load around pilots. And then from there, maybe even eventually, would, transition into like full-time developer. And that would mean me losing you on my team, which would suck, right? But like, rather lose you on my team than have the company lose you, especially given all you've done for this company, right? So yeah, and then so let's explain all that to him. And then he said, I said, what are your thoughts like on this? And he's like, well, I don't believe it. I don't believe in it, is what he said. And then I thought he was meaning kind of like, oh, like, so what I said was, oh yeah, I know too, like straddling, pilots and developers, like this kind of hybrid stuff never works. I get it, but like, let's go for it. But wait, what do you mean you don't believe in it? Like, what did you mean? Like that, I don't want to just assume that's what you were getting at. He's like, oh, like, I don't believe it'll happen, right? Kind of thing. I was like, all right, well, fair. Well, then that's challenge to me to make you a believer, basically. But yeah, I mean, it's not going to happen right now. This is a 6-month thing. I mean, this is not going to happen in like basically 2023. But let's head in that direction, Oh, oh. And then I popped the big. So this, I'll maybe leave it here for this post because Beck is killing me, dude. Is the last thing I said to him, because this guy, like, you can't ever compare to the CEO, but like, as far as employees go, nobody works harder in this company, I think, than him and me, right? That's my opinion. And I was like, hey man, like, I'm looking at like, and he moved to London shortly after I did, I think. Yeah, just shortly after I did. So he moved to London, been here about as long as I have. And honestly, this is like the worst time, not the last 6 months, but prior to the last 6 months, the last 2 years, no worse time to ever live in London. Right? You're like paying a premium in those 2 years to like not be able to do shit. Maybe no worse time to live in London than since like fucking World War II. I don't know, right? I don't know how London was like in the 50s, 60s, 70s, but I can guarantee you during Corona wasn't that cool. Anywhere in the world. And it's not just unique, it's not just true of London, right? But yeah, he moved here and he's paying a premium to like live in. What was the point, right? And he's very like homebody. He doesn't go out much. Very like introvert, very introvert. And I was like, hey man, like, what about? Because I'm looking at like living somewhere else. So I need to turn the page on this place, turn a page in my life, and kind of close a chapter on this place. I'm looking at living in another place. What about us living together? And like, this is my proposal, hear me out, right? So I'm like, 2 things I really need in a place is, well, one I really need is a balcony. The other I'd really like is access to a pool, which is not that common in like London. And my proposal, that's what I'm looking for. And my proposal is that I'll continue paying what I'm paying, which is quite a lot, actually, too much, but no problem, right? It's fine. I'll continue paying what I'm paying. And you can continue pay what you pay. We combine what you've been paying, what I've been paying. That's our budget on a place, which would actually make for a really great place because I could find a 2-bedroom with what I'm paying for this place already, right? Then we add whatever you're making. I'm not asking you kind of what you're paying currently, but you could add whatever you're currently paying or willing to pay on top of that. And, there you could have, 1 bedroom and a 2-bedroom spot we end up finding, which would probably be a really nice place in London, right? And given that we're like the 2 like hardest workers in the company, I kind of want to like, it's the idea here is not for us to come together and work harder. It's for us, to me, to kind of like say, hey, stop working, right? We're the 2 hardest workers. Like, we can work hard together, but we should also kind of check each other on like not overworking on ourselves and, on the same team. But at the end of the day, it is a little weird when you think like, well, I am his boss. He would be living with his boss, right? So I appreciate that could be kind of weird or whatever, but unorthodox, sure, but unorthodox is all right by me. I am. So we'll see. And then I said at the end of all of it, right? You don't have to say anything now, right? Like, just think about it, right? For like, and we'll come back to this, right? Next week. I didn't say next week, but like, I'm going to come back to it within next week. Hopefully get him out, actually, trying to get him, me, and the CEO together on Friday, hopefully. And maybe rebroach it there, see what he says. But then I re-raised it on the lunch and tell call that we had today, which is deteriorating badly. That needs to get revisited. Like less and less people are showing up each week, I feel like. I raise on the team calls just to kind of like tease a little bit, right? But then others on the team are like, yeah, you should do it, Doran, you know, like, well, that's a good deal, right? And then he like basically explained the real question for him is that he's unsure about London altogether, right? It's not, you know, that, I mean, that's an easy, like, that's very diplomatic out, right? But still, like, I believe him when he says that. He's thinking like, maybe I'll go to Romania. He's, you know, he's Romanian ethnicity, but like Ukrainian nationality. Maybe I'll go to Romania. And he has Romanian citizenship too. Talking about some place that's like really quiet, calm, cheap, beautiful, right? I'm like, that makes sense. I get that, right? That said, I feel like you lived in London and didn't get to tap into London, right? Maybe we lived together in a really nice place in London and together tap into it. But he's also an introvert, so you know, maybe what tap into what if you're an introvert, right? But not trying to get out too much. But still, I feel like there is something to be said about maybe giving London another shot from another angle. I mean, that's what I'm doing by trying to move out of here. Like a refresh shot or a fresh start on London, basically by moving. And you know, maybe, you know, we'll see what he says. And then also, I think people see when they see me or think of me, they probably think I make a horrible roommate. But those that live with me like to think can attest that I'm actually a really pretty good roommate, right? I mean, the guy that visited me this weekend was a former roommate. I was like, and I told him this too. I was like, you know, looking at me, or like, you might think I'm a bad roommate, but like, I got references. I'll give you references, right? Too, so, anyways, so all that said, yeah, I feel like there's more to say, but I'm pretty done. This is supposed to be a quick one, and I got to figure out, like, when I even lay down, like, I can't, like, laying down, that doesn't make a difference. I got to figure out this back thing, but yeah, be happy, do good. I love you, Mom.